Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 11th of July. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you a broad overview of what to expect, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in detail each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. Now this week has a supermoon in the sign of Capricorn, also known as a buck moon. But it's a bit of a misnomer, this, because the moon's actually in its most vulnerable position in its entire journey through those 28 days that it takes to go through its cycle. And because of that, I think it's important to understand that Capricornian energy, where the moon resides, is very much about the worldly realm. And we also have the potent planet of power, Pluto, not too far distant from this moon position too. But on the other side of the heavens, we have the Sun and the more quick-witted energies of Mercury. And they're asking us to think about protection, nurture, security, family issues, anything to do with our emotional needs. Now, it has become a bit of a maxim over the last 10, 15 years or so, that work-life balance. But with the advent of COVID and the amount of people working from home, has that ever been more true than now? So I think all of us could find ourselves in some quite strident conversations this week. There may be that practical, physical realm that we have to service, the demands of work and earning the money, dealing with the realities of life as it is, but how do we balance this with our more emotional needs? And there can be some very intense moments, because broadly the moon and the sun are obviously exactly opposite, but Mercury and Pluto in the mix as well means we have a very intense set of energies on this particular full moon. Now also the energies in the sign of Uranus, which has been very strong this year because of the North Node reversing into Taurus on the 18th of January. And as I predicted in the autumn of last year, a big reset around the cost of living was very likely. Now, of course, now Mars has moved into this sign, but Mars is detrimented in the sign of Taurus, and Mars is also very impatient. It wants to consume, whereas the North Node and Uranus, which come together, by the way, in an exact conjunction on the 26th of July, well, they're much more to do with, in terms of Uranus, the truth, and in terms of the North Node, karma. We could see with Mars in the mix as well, quite a lot of volatility in terms of financial markets. It could be in terms of the cost of foodstuffs or fuel. They've gone up a lot already, but I feel that the response of consumers could be a lot more angry with Mars in the mix. Fortunately, however, Uranus forges a terrific link with the position of the Sun on that full moon. And if we're prepared to, look at things afresh, even things that are a bit stuck or difficult, and be more innovative and flexible in our approach, we can still make progress. Also, Venus, the planet of relating, it forges a very stable link with Saturn in the second half of this week. And that can help us to really appreciate the friendships or the financial part of our situation which are secure. Unfortunately, however, Venus, concurrent to that influence, is squared up by Neptune in the second half of this week. So I think it's possible, with all these energies boiling around, that we may start to see the people that really understand our predicament, are supportive of it, at least, in terms of their emotional understanding of our particular individual situation. And we're going to see people who may want to avoid the reality of some harsh situations, and that could be Venus in that square with Neptune. If you do meet someone for the first time in a romantic context, if it's someone who's quite self-confident and has done well in a financial context, that could be something that actually doesn't feel so good, because the energy in the sign of Cancer is calling for a sense of understanding the importance of nurture, but there still could be some kind of big charged energy, where it's around a personal situation or the world at large. And I just think that right angle between Venus and Neptune points towards the distortion of information. So if you do meet someone for the first time and you're not quite sure about them, I really would take it slowly. But Venus and Neptune, when they are in a relationship together, can also help us to trip the light fantastic. So maybe we just want to actually have a bit of escapism and enjoy some kind of time with someone who is very mesmeric. It's just down to that personal choice. But for more stable relationships, I think Venus's angle with Saturn is one that we can all really celebrate. Now, I've stormed through the 100,000 subs mark, and I'd love to get to 101 as soon as possible. I think we're about, at the time of recording this video, up to about 100,000 and 100,200 subs. If you've subbed already, thank you so much. If you've yet to do so, I'd be greatly appreciative. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you would like to benefit from more serious astrology, if you tell me 3 pieces of personal information in terms of time, date and place of birth, I can share with you a roadmap that can guide your moves for the rest of your life, and also a 12-month forecast with 30% off with my special package. Please see the link beneath this video. No 2 charts are the same, totally based on your information, and will help you to understand some of the patterns that may have dominated in your life so far, good or bad, and help you to perhaps work on the more challenging ones, but also can give you tremendous insights to guide your moves going forwards and to seize opportunities in a much more effective way. But please stay with me now for your in-depth forecast from Aries through to Pisces. So Gemini, your week commencing the 11th of July forecast is really complex, to be honest, because there's a lot of energy building up in house 12. And of course, this has been augmented by Mars, which can be an impatient influence at the best of times. In house 12, it can stir up the sediment from past stuff. But actually, Mars forges a really productive link with Jupiter, the planet of growth, in your sector of the long term, and also where you connect with people well. I think if you've got constructive relationships, particularly around business, there could be some important discussions this week which lay down some ground rules from which you can work within in a really positive way. Venus in your sign also is giving you lots and lots of charm, and it's linked with the more solid, somber energy of Saturn. Suggests that if there are people that you find, you can reach a consensus with, it could work really well. But not by agreeing with their whole side of things or them agreeing to your whole side of things. There could be a little bit of a tussle. There could be some frank discussions with the Sun and Mercury in opposition to the Moon and Pluto. But I feel that some progress can be made. What are the challenges? I think really it is that square between Venus and Neptune, which suggests that however talented you are, your reach towards an audience may seem a little uncertain, but equally there is an opportunity to reach that audience, providing you're realistic and don't set unattainable goals. The other complexity, I think, is the fact that Venus is actually in a quincunx with Pluto, which is 150 degrees. This is very delicate stuff. Pluto in the 8th house can be about long-term finance, it can be about sex, it can be about intimacy, and of course it can be about changes, and where things make way to be replaced by the new. So it's very much an evolutionary journey that you've been going through since 2008, which may have seen some huge changes going on in your situation. So Venus kind of saying in its relationship with Pluto that yes, you can use an enormous amount of charm, but if there is some kind of approach that you have taken or thinking about taking, which is perhaps a little bit more off the beaten track, it probably would be best to think very carefully before pursuing it, because Neptune could cause a bit of confusion about what's the right thing to do. So I would say, if we think about Capricorn as being the old world energy and Cancer being the nurture energy, as long as you sort of work with those energies, you respect your emotional needs in terms of your self-worth, but you're not trying to force something so you get it so much on your own terms that the other side feels that it's an utter defeat. So it's finding that kind of midpoint. But I do predict, for some very well-known politicians, either side of the Atlantic, that there could be some very serious revelations around sexual and financial conduct, which could be incredibly powerful. Of course, there's been a drip, drip, drip of various figures for some while, but I think there's going to be some more hardcore energy or information coming out into the public domain. But as long as you have a realistic expectation in terms of finance, your self-worth, working with the psychological dimension, embracing even the tender parts of your nature, but also bringing into play old skills, knowledge and contacts, especially with Mars linking with Jupiter, can be a really smart thing to do. And if your planning is systematic, fair and completely straightforward in your approach, the link between Venus and Saturn can be very helpful. It's just that square with Neptune and that quincunx with Pluto and Venus, and not necessarily wanting everything on your own terms, but resisting anyone who wants everything on their terms.